That's the original candelabra from the pyramids.
Is that your total insight?
That is the original
This
menorah from when the Maccabees.
made for my grandfather's grandfather.
Close enough.
Brought through the turmoil of the Bolshevik Revolution from Russia, from Poland, escaped the last boat out of Antwerp right before the Nazis invaded Belgium. Chicago, Milwaukee, Denver, New York.
I don't like this anymore.
So when I light the menorah, the legacy of the lights of the menorah is one which I think about very deeply. If you could take a little bit closer, I'm not going to hand it around.
Do not hand
It is obviously handmade, filigree, silver filigree, which when I had it over the years, parts of it got broken, and we took it with us on a visit to Israel last year to try and find a craftsman who could fix some of the broken pieces. And they finally found one Yemenite silversmith who still makes filigree, who agreed to repair it. And we fixed up, there were, these little birds. You can't see it now because it was obvious that as they tried to flee, that sometimes they had to bribe somebody. And they broke off some of these little birds. There was only one left. And we took to the craftsman, he reproduced them and replaced the copies in the place where the originals were. So, when I sit down in front of the menorah and light the candles now for the rest of the week, and I think about the legacy and the significance of what, as King David said, Gal Einai, open up my eyes. Beat on the floors, so I can see the wonders of your Torah. Then while I have many questions in my mind about how I will understand all of this, I have no question as to the way it's been transmitted. Because it's not theoretical. It's real. So, now's your chance. Any questions that you would like to ask?
Rabbi, what do you think the time period, like when that, the menorah, the time period of the menorah?
1860 to 1880. Wow. And by 1880, the pogroms had already started. So,
right.
So, somewhere before 1850, 1880.
So, two parshas ago, I think it was, that because the people of Shreb, they violated, I think, Tamar. So, yeah.
Dina.
So then, Benjamin and his brothers, he slaughtered the Shem, the people of Shem. So,
Shimon and Levi.
Yeah. So, what kind of statue are they, like the new martial arts? Like, what did they do? they took on single-handedly, like, a full nation.
Full city.
Full city. Some kind of tradition. Because the people today, we're all like everyone's eating yoga, everybody's eating that. Is there anything?
That's a really fascinating question, because the Talmud tells us that what happened when the temple was destroyed, we lost our glory as a Jewish people, wasn't only a spiritual loss, but as long as we had the temple, the Jewish people were imbued with abnormal strength. Because real strength, some of you might know, does not depend upon how strong you are physically, but how strong your concentration is, how well you know what you're doing. As you know, I can't break this table with a karate chop, but I know people that would just turn it into toothpicks. Because it's not about physical strength. It's about clarity in what your mission is. And as long as we had the temple, we talk about one of the things that we talk about that's part of the history of Israel today is the Bar Kokhba revolution. Masada, and all the battles that they fought against the Romans. If you take a look at the numbers of warriors who were fighting against the Roman legions, it was a handful. They held off the entire Roman legion for years. There is no explanation that fits the definition of warfare. The closest that we can get to it is the dedication of the North Vietnamese not to allow the United States to overrun Vietnam. No matter how many tens of thousands of tons of explosives that were rained upon them, you're not going to destroy us. This is ours. That's the closest we can get to imagine what that was like. The entire Roman legion, tens of thousands of soldiers, couldn't stop the Bar Kokhba revolution. So, yeah, Shimon and Levi were strong guys. They took on a whole city.
So it says when Mashiach comes, people will be resurrected. We talked about this, that they're going to be resurrected in the amount of all this first, and it's not like a wave of resurrection, I guess. But also in Judaism, there's a whole concept of reincarnation. So if Mashiach is coming, and each person here has been alive before as a different person, what happens when they're getting resurrected? Who's getting resurrected? Because it's the same soul, the same neshama.
Oh. You see that light? How many people are benefiting from that light?
Everyone in the whole room, turn colors to the office.
Right? Again. How do you explain that each one of us are getting the benefit from the same light? It shines. That's the nature of light. It radiates. The definition of a neshama, of a Jewish soul, the closest we get to it is a radiant of light. Light directly from the will of the infinite creator, that we should have a connection with the infinite. How many bodies are part of that one light? This many is necessary. So we now understand that there are 600,000 root neshamas, is what we call them, root souls, which means there's 600,000 points of light, which all join together in Yaakov, Yitzchak, Avram, one source of light. So how many bodies will be resurrected? Many is necessary. Reincarnation is not it's not an ever-ready battery. Take it out of this one, plug it into the next one, it'll keep on going. And the neshama is, if we could use it, the metaphor which is used, is a ray of light sent into this world to accomplish a purpose. If it goes through one lifetime or many lifetimes or one body or maybe even all the bodies, maybe that's why we're all sitting in this room together. Because we all have some reason why we're here. Why we're here. Each one of us can give us a different explanation, rationalization how we got here. But it's never coincidental. It's only because maybe we were all standing at Mount Sinai together. When Hashem gave us the Torah and said, well, you guys got to get back together sometime in the future. Because the Torah connects us that way. So it's only a contradiction if you think that a neshama is an individual package. But if a neshama is a ray of light, dozens of bodies, hundreds of bodies, all connect the same thing. How many bodies will stand up? I don't know. What the bodies will look like in the state of perfection, probably something completely different than us. Yes?
So going back to the family tree, track all the way back to Adam. How does the Torah explain like the different cultures and ethnicities around the world?
That's a good question. You see, we are, if I use the term, God's as good a scientist as any of us are. And that if you want to test changes that take place in a population or any test group, you have to have a control group. The control group is not allowed to change. All the rest of the experiments that you do to see what will happen when you change the test groups, the test populations, those then you want to see coming back and match up to what it looked like the control group. We have gone out into the world, especially since the destruction of the first temple. The Jewish people have wandered throughout the world, all corners of the world. Since the destruction of the second temple, we've been everywhere. Spain, Germany, France, Poland, Russia, Japan, China, Australia. And in each group, in each area, the Jews all get together and start practicing Judaism as ever they do. But I told you God's a great scientist. He actually kept the control group. The control group was intact up to the 1950s. It was the Jews of Yemen, who had been there since the temple, the destruction of the second temple, and never moved. Wow. And never changed. And never had any reason to lose. And transmitted everything. And the amazing thing was, their Torah scroll and our Torah scroll matched. And their traditions and how they look, with the beard and the payas and the hair, and the yarmulkes and the clothing, matched after almost 2,000 years of change. So, yeah, we've tested it. And because we're choosing people, because we question ourselves all the time. You ask rabbis when they sit down to study Talmud or Halacha, there's a great deal of dialogue and discussion and question, arguments and yelling and screaming and just prove a point. The Torah is alive. And it's filled with vibrancy if you only tap into it. And you're allowed to ask any question you want. I've had the pleasure, the honor of having dialogue with Christian missionaries who are Jews. Jews for Jay. Because back in Denver is one of the homes for what's called the Union of Messianic Congregations of America.
Tim Tebow.
Huh?
No? Tim Tebow.
So I had the opportunity to dialogue with the leaders of the movement. And we sit down and said, come, bring your text, let me tell you why. They want to know, how come we don't believe in Christianity? I said, it's really simple. Can you ask questions about the viability of Jesus? He says, no. We do. In fact, I can show you the place in Talmud where we have the history of Christianity and its origins and its source, who he was and what he taught and how he was questioned and how he was brought to trial. And he, by the way, he wasn't crucified, because he actually died 180 years before Christianity wants to record him. Great stuff for dialogue. But I said, take out your text. Take out the English text. I'll take out my art scroll. We'll match text to text. And then you get to see that they took on translations which were corrupted, changed from the original translation from the Hebrew to the Greek into contemporary translations. They're not allowed to ask the questions. We are. And because we asked the questions, therefore, I had the pleasure of bringing back into Judaism quite a number of Jews who were caught into Messianic or Christian beliefs. Because I said, question, ask me any question. If I don't know the answer, we'll go look for an answer. So we have the ability to ask the questions, and we have the right. None of that's imperative. That's what's called. When we were growing up in both in yeshivas and in the girls' schools, if you asked your teacher a question, what did they say? That's a good question. In the Christian schools, is it you're not allowed to ask? The difference. Yes.
Going back to the soul, how do we know, because they say that we're put on this road for our soul correction, how do we know what our personal correction is?
I know mine. I keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. So I know that's my purpose. It's really simple. if we take a look at what we struggle with, each one of us